I return. Though. I was numpty. I let my phone get down to 30%. Naughty girl. It is on charge now. My clothes horse collapsed. Not good. I'll need to explain that to Super Hubby in the morning. Right. As a holding place. Hi, darling. Rude Joy's comrades. Shana Clanky Pants is here. Hi, darling. Where is it? Uh, 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 alright. Uh. Yes, 90% humidity. Should be banned. Ah, there's there.
All day, every day, therapist, mother maintenance, then a virgin, nurse, then a servant, just an appendage, lift to attendant, so that he never lifts a finger, 24/7, baby machine, so he can live out his picket fence dreams. It's not an act of love, you make her, you make me do too much labor. But baby, to my eyes are bursting. If our love died, would that be the worst thing? Somebody I thought was my savior, sure make me do a whole lot of labor. All day, every day, therapist, mother maintenance, then a virgin, nurse, then a servant, just an.
Oh, God.
Now, Donald Trump has just sort of decided that he could fire people and seems to have gotten away with it.
Let us see if my resident philosopher can come back. Gribby, where are you, my comrades? I'm going to need your help to get through this one. Please be Scribby. He'd be awesome. Carry on. Spam away. It does look brilliant, my darling. I'm feeling not bad, actually. I'm rejoicing. Scotland won. Get wrecked, Belarus. Uh, mm, mm. Give me a minute. What is it? That's a bit weighty. But rest for the feet and for the ankles and knees as well. So, super happy bought it. Mwah. There's already crap on it. It's for the poor tired tootsies and the gubbed feet, which is always a good thing because the feet do be gubbed. God damn it. No. Go there. A second. Need to make sure the feet are covered. Aha! That really is better. Taking the pressure off my knees and ankles is really quite good. £19 and 99 pence, so 20 quid. What would that be in your money? $12? $15 maybe? Look, Curtis Yarvin. Thanks, Gritty. I was watching it before Kevin and Lena went live to cover Laura Kunzberg. I watched them cover Bridget Phillipson, who's our Education Secretary, and John Swinney, who is the First Minister, the leader of the SNP here in Scotland. I do not need to be hearing Priti Patel again. If I do that, that'll be the third time I've heard from her today, and no, fuck that. Not doing it. I hate the woman. So I left. I said bye bye. At least start my stream. So I can cover this fucking lunatic. It'll be fun. How are the boys, darling? Give them scritches, please. Seriously, 90% humidity. Fuck that. That would just end me. I have changed from my pretty dress. I'm wearing a tunic now and my cardi. I've also put the heating back on just to take the chill out the air. He might moan in the morning, but that's good. I do feel ashamed for him. I get why he howls and stuff. Do they? Would I like your father-in-law? Obviously, I need to meet you and Kathy in real life first, because you two are lovely, lovely individuals. And based, obviously. You have to be based. You follow this, Nutter. How is the feline contingent doing? Say hi to the kitties for me. Any amateur rock climbers still existing in the household? That was a funny place for Cameo to go. How is the feline contingent doing? And how is my amateur rock climber doing? I did so love seeing him up there. Him, his Cameo, is Cameo, uh, he or her. I keep on forgetting I remember the boys more because I'm more a dog person. Don't get me wrong, I love cats. More dog coded, really. Sleep on your back? Okay, Cameo. I would say I'd want to see a photo of that, but I don't think you'd be able to, unless you're double jointed, of course. I would say later, if it's possible. If you've got modding duties over on Raptor, see if you can pinch people, especially ones who are interested in philosophy or theorists or any. The other one on the other side of this conversation is Alistair Campbell, an absolute scumbag. And this is in UK, by the way. Oh, right, cool. I will leave this until people arrive, but let's see if we can find something fun. Let us go to stream videos. I've segregated them so all the heavy stuff is getting put in watch later, and all the fun stuff or good things are going in my stream videos. Oh, wait, here's a second. Bring it. Ah, hello, Shana. Hello, Cameo. How's it going, kitty? Oh, that's a rather nice looking collar she's wearing. Hello. That'd be lovely. Are either of the kitties scratchy or anything? My next door neighbour gets absolutely scratched to fuck. Tell you, do be using them claws for what they were designed, basically attacking their main food giver. My poor neighbour's arms are a mess. Take it away, Ross.
Huge news. A new poll published by The National today has the Greens surging into second place. It would see us elect a record 18 MSPs, up from the 8 that we elected in 2021. This proves that our message is cutting through. A message that says Scotland can be a fairer and a greener country. The lives of the people who live here can be made so much better, but only if we take on the super rich and the big polluters who've rigged the system in their own favour. We can fix that system. We can build a better Scotland. But this poll shows what's possible, not what's definitely going to happen. The only way that we can turn record polling into record results next May is if you join our movement. Go to greens.scot/join today and become part of the movement for a fairer and a greener Scotland.
I'm here. Fantastic.
You're surrounded by a vampire, a werewolf, and a chain demon. This is it. The moment I've been waiting for. I cast Greater Polycule! Do you mean Greater Polymorph? I do not. No.
Sometimes life gives you lemons and you make lemonade. And sometimes life gives you Nazis. And you depose them before they form a radical death called ethno state. Have a glorious day.
Thank you, Patrick.
What?
Hi, my name is Keir Starmer. Hi, my name is.
Your
My
voice
name
was
is.
so funny.
My name is Keir Starmer. Hi, kids. Do you like protests? Hold a Palestine sign and prisons where you'll go next. While I strive to make Britain more oppressed, I turn a blind eye to genocide. It's grotesque. Compassion can wait. I'll give in to hate. I'm trying to beat Nigel by acting like his best mate. And Farage says,
thanks for the free press, but if you don't want me next, perhaps we should agree less.
mistakes always trending from deputy's job, ending to spending time defending a friend of Jeffrey Epstein. I'm less keen on helping you than trying to get mean. I'm more underwhelming than an impotent sex scene. Thames Water, not nationalised. Northern Powerhouse Rail, not realised. Child benefit cap, not lifted. Pensioners' winter fuel cut, inflicted. I took cash from the old. I must have been crazy, just like I stole this track from Slim Shady. That kind of own gold, there's just no saving. That's why I leave you cold like old ladies. Taxing the rich might be your wish, but making life fairer ain't on my list. I turn the tables, attack the disabled. Is that what Labour voters wanted to enable? They didn't vote for me. They voted not Conservative. My huge majority could deliver an alternative. Instead, what an uninspiring mess this is. My most famous message is the return of the sausages. And I confess what impresses even less. I'm relying on AI to fix the NHS. The fact I love AI shouldn't be a shock to you. It's just like me, inauthentic and unpopular. Back once again, I'm the chat GPM. Talking like a robot, not having any friends. If I can't amend our country's current trend, Farage in charge is the way the story ends. Nothing changes, just more pain. It's clear that to blame is Keir Starmer. Nothing changes, just more pain. It's clear that to blame is Keir Starmer.
Thank you, cassette boy. Brilliant.
Rent controls are coming back to Scotland. MSPs have just passed a bill introduced by the Greens to bring back a system to control increases in rent. This bill takes power from landlords and gives it to renters, because we know that landlords across the country have been jacking up rents way beyond people's wages, way beyond inflation. Absolutely unjustifiable increases. As well as those rent controls, it introduces new protections from evictions and new rights, like the right to decorate and the right to keep a pet. That's the difference that Green MSPs are making in Parliament. We are making it easier for people to keep a roof over their head, reduce their costs, and we're redistributing power in society from the small number of people who have far too much to everybody else, to the people who really need it. In this case, from landlords to renters.
Oh, I've sliced her in half. Ross Greer, Gillian Mackay, co-leaders of the Scottish Greens. Hello, I voted for those two. So rejoice. I actually got someone I voted for. Love it. I can't wait. I can't wait. Hopefully I'll get to meet both of them. I go to the Scottish Greens conference on Friday. Bring it. Oh.
Hi, my name is. My name is. My name.
Oh, dear.
You're surrounded by a vampire, a werewolf, and a chain demon. Hiss.
Again.
Huge news. A new poll published by The National today has the Greens surging into second place. It would see us elect a record 18 MSPs, up from the 8 that we elected in 2020.
Oh no. Back again? Back again? Got it.
Now, Donald Trump has just sort of decided that he could fire
There we go.
people and seems to have gotten away with it. Perhaps it's legal. I don't know. But the fact is,
just not. Does it matter?
does it matter?
That if it's legal or not?
No, it doesn't. It actually doesn't.
Right, Pinker as well.
I want to establish what you actually mean by monarchy. So, for example, we're in the UK now. King Charles is our king. But by your definition, this is not a monarchy.
Well, it's a ceremonial monarchy, or as some call it, a constitutional monarchy. I would say that in English history, actually, you did have a period of genuine constitutional monarchy where power was divided between Parliament and the king. That was from 1660 to 1688.
And why was that a good system?
The constitutional system?
No. Why was it a good system when we had an absolute monarch?
Well, I mean, have you walked around London lately and seen what that created? Have you been to Westminster? Have you been to, you know, under the absolute monarchy of Henry VIII created essentially the Tudor age, which to me is the most spectacular age of English history, was the Tudor.
Curtis, please. Scottish woman here. Interested in history. I've read lots of history about my country. That time period, not so good for certain people. Just saying. You're invited into this country, I'm assuming. Obviously, you're here talking and philosophizing, essentially. Please read up on our history before saying shit like that. It wasn't great, trust me. Well, not that I was there. From what I have read, didn't seem like a great time. Not everyone was having a ball. It gets worse, by the way.
Age. Shakespeare flourished under an absolute monarchy. You know,
Maybe
I don't
was
see any Shakespeares in China, so that tells you that maybe there's some difference between Elizabeth I and Xi Jinping.
Unless you know what you're talking about, don't say shit like that as well. The poetry and playwrights that came out of China are shaping how plays are getting written and how they were acted. So don't go around saying that, please. Don't get me wrong. I love my boy Will. I do love Shakespeare. He's good at a playwright. But it's time, obviously. Basically got rammed down our throats at school. You couldn't escape it. He seems the bard.
But you know, we can explore that. But you know, I think that England is very much capable of flourishing again and becoming the mistress of the world with a system of government that you know is not devoted to sending you know, pensioners heating bills to Mauritius.
Okay, when our monarch was kind of closely involved with your country, it took a war and a revolution to change that. Okay, how do we go from where we are now? This is a democracy. How do we go?
You can expand
how
on
do we
that,
find
Alistair, you
our monarch?
absolute waste.
Well, you know,
it sounds to me like this is quite a difficult process.
Well, it's a difficult process if you want it to be perfect. But actually, one of the things that we see in European history is that there's quite a great number of quite imperfect, but not Hitler, not Stalin kings. I would say, just off the top of my head, if you picked any one of the, do you have a Fortune 500 thing here? Like, you know, if you picked
Stock exchange, yeah.
Your stock exchange was based on hours. You mentalist. Where do you think you learned it from? God damn it.
Yes, if you picked any successful CEO,
FTSE 100.
The FTSE 100, it sounds like we're playing footsie under the table. You know, it must be a thing. I'm sure it's a thing. You know, if you picked any competent CEO and gave him the actual powers of the CEO over the whole state, I think that they do much better than they're doing now. And
I've seen powerful, effective, clever, sensible CEOs who've come into government
and failed.
And failed.
And failed. And let me tell you why they failed. Why they failed is that they didn't know what they were doing and they didn't understand where they were.
Well, that
that
means they're not going to be very good at it.
Well, no, because they're basically put in charge of a civil service.
Civil service exists for a fucking reason because most politicians are fucking idiots. We need the civil service to know how to actually run the fucking place. Literally all of it. They dictate what the policy is and what the legislation they want. Then when they come up against a fucking brick wall that is known as the civil service, they have to change tack and say, "Oh, we have to change in that fashion." Then they come out on the politics shows and the news and stuff and apologise or say, "I'm getting blocked because blah 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 blah. They're blocking the legislation I got voted in." Fuck off. That's to make sure things are legally done and they're correctly drafted because some laws are fucking vague. Purposefully so. It depends if the civil service is willing to do it that vaguely. Thankfully, some of them aren't in certain aspects, which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong, there's still vague ass laws out there. We deal with them. Lots of them I don't like because they're too fucking vague. Worded far too fucking vague. Vaguely. And that is putting that into a legal doctrine, into the way a country works, never a good thing. Funny that.
That has been in yes minister mode for approximately 150 years, and they realize that they can't tell these people what they do. And you put, for example, the first Trump administration appointed the CEO of ExxonMobil as a Secretary of State. Now at ExxonMobil, he was the CEO, and I mean, it's a pretty easy job being CEO of ExxonMobil, I gotta say, because it's just oil.
Could you do it?
Not as well as him, probably.
No.
But it's
not that easy.
Not that easy.
No.
Not that easy. But at being Secretary of State, he completely failed because he did not understand. I mean, nobody really knows what the mission of the U.S. State Department is to start with. Moreover, so you're the CEO of an organization whose mission is like predominantly historical and has something to do with our empire, which we have for some reason. And you don't control the budget, you don't control the policy, and most of all, you don't control the personnel. You can't fire people. Now, Donald Trump has just sort of decided that he could fire people and seems to have gotten away with it. And this is very contrary to my experience growing up as a child of the American civil service. Perhaps it's legal, I don't know. But the fact is...
Just not, does it matter?
Does it matter?
Not
if
legal.
it's legal or not?
No, it doesn't. It actually doesn't. Because I think...
So if that is a prevalent view amongst even a small section of the American public, then that is the erosion of the rule of law.
Yes, because there's actually no...
we don't care about that.
There's actually no such thing as the rule of law. There's only the rule of men. And what we've basically...
Do women have a role in this?
And women.
And
women. And women. Actually, I think in some ways they're much more powerful.
Okay, good. Good.
We've all experienced it.
Yeah, we have. But I'm intrigued by this because I sort of feel that there's a kind of germ of an idea in what you're saying, but it isn't actually borne out necessarily by historical analysis, and nor is it practical today. And we are living here today. We're not living in Tudor times. We're living in 2025. Massive challenges facing the world. And I would argue, by the way, that somebody who came back from the Tudor age and saw the world today would be pretty blown away by it.
They'd be impressed by the technology, and they'd be very disturbed by the state of humanity. Ask the the Tudor aristocrat to walk a high street at 3 in the morning and see what comes stumbling out of the pubs. I don't think they'd be super happy with that.
How long have you been here? I mean, it's so...
Well, you know what? The other great term that the new right has invented is the banana. Do you know the banana?
No.
The banana is the banana-shaped good part of London. I understand that we're roughly at the north end, at the little stock end of the banana.
But this is what's so amazing about the way that your culture's developed. So, if I'm not wrong, it's still the case that a majority of your Congress people do not have passports. Most Americans do not have passports. They know next to nothing about this country other than this kind of relentless propaganda put out for some reason, which I've never quite worked out, by the MAGA crowd, who live on myth.
And give me an example of the myth.
The myth is that you feel less safe in London than any city in the world. I've lived in
any city. I mean, Port-au-Prince. I don't think that anyone.
No, okay, but that is the myth that gets put out. If you look at some of the MAGA social media stuff, don't go to London. It's scary. We get phone calls from people saying, "Is it safe to come to London?" Because of this relentless propaganda. I'm surprised that you want to be part of that.
Are there places?
You're more likely going to get fucking mortified by the price of a pint or anything, or how much you have to pay for a meal or anything like that. And rents down in London are fucking crazy. But it is safe. It's just expensive. I haven't been down yet. I might get down there. Who knows? Both my sisters have been down there. My younger sister warned me, do not take Super Hubby. You will literally walk out, get on a bus and go back up to Scotland. We're used to pints being a certain amount, and going down to London might actually piss them off. Probably rightfully so. Sorry, London, and my London comrades. But your city's prices are fucking mental. But London's safe. I'll say again, just expensive.
In London where you would be unsafe at nighttime?
There is no place in London where I would feel unsafe. Are there places?
Nobody's going to mess with you.
Are there places in London? Are there places in London where there is crime? Every place in the world there is crime. Are there places? Yes.
Have you been to Tokyo?
I have been to Tokyo. Yeah. I've also been to Singapore. I love Singapore. You have to have balanced. You have to have trade-offs in these things. All I'm saying to you is, I just think the MAGA crowd, and I'm surprised you're falling into it. By projecting these myths about other countries, Vance, your friend Vance, coming to Munich and saying the threat to you people is not Putin, is you don't believe in free speech. This guy who's now taken Jimmy Kimmel off the airwaves, trying to get the New York Post shut down. So, you know.
Well, how many?
It's a myth.
How many people? Can I ask you? How many people were arrested for bad tweets last year in England?
I don't know the answer. Some. Now,
Some.
if you want my honest opinion, I think that social media under one of these amazing business guys, Elon Musk, who I wouldn't want running my bath, let alone a country, right? Because he's turned Twitter X into a complete cesspit, because it became in the aftermath of riots, which are quite dangerous and people can get killed, in the aftermath of a murder, which social media then weaponized to fuel riots, and some people within that said things that I think, frankly, they should have been punished.
When you talk about,
did I think they should have been sent to jail? Probably not.
When you talk about, yes, actually, there's quite a long history in democracies of, what we call people power or color revolutions, namely the people rising up and storming the presidential palace. Such a thing happened in Ukraine in 2014, and I imagine you were all for it. When I think of riots, I think more of London in 2011. Can you speak a little to that? What was the experience of watching the London riots in 2011 like, from your standpoint? If I may ask a question or two.
Those were riots over the race riots. Well, we've had a long history of riot in this country. Actually, I don't have a vivid memory of those. I do have vivid memories of race riots in the north of England. They're very scary, and as a result of them, the role of leadership should be to try to bring people together and heal. What you see in your place, and we're seeing this actually not around a riot, but we're seeing it this very day, arising from the assassination of Charlie Kirk. There is something about the right in your country that every problem is simply an opportunity to divide rather than unite.
Well, when I see, it takes quite a bit of chutzpah, for the left to, shoot your guy in the neck and then demand that you unite. I didn't hear any of that. You remember George Floyd? There's this very strange thing, this American, George Floyd. Right then, I heard basically around the world in the most cynical and aggressive possible.
Was an understanding of the need for racial justice.
Racial justice?
Yeah, racial justice, racial equality. Racial equality.
Do you distinguish racial justice from any other form of justice? Is it like, is it racial justice when different races get special points on admission to college? Are you a believer in what we call affirmative action? You have that.
In some cases I am. In some cases I am. I'll give you an example. In this country, one of the reasons why we've got more female politicians than you currently have in your leadership is because at times in history it has taken affirmative action to get that. You are now deliberately doing the reverse of that, so that your politics and your government is becoming, frankly, fat, male, stale men. And that's about it.
Yeah.
So, you don't see that as progress.
So
to continue watching this video, click the link in the top left or in the description below.
With a free trial, you can enjoy the full talk and thousands more.
Thank you for being part of the conversation.
Oh no. Ah. That's. Oh.
Thank you for coming. You may know I present the UK's #1 podcast.
There we go. Well,
And my co-host, Rory Stewart, we're often described as an odd couple. So heaven knows what this is. I am probably, to some extent, your idea of hell. I'm quite left-wing.
the other one has other spells on it. And ribbons. You are not left wing, trust me. You're not. I can't believe he said that with a straight face. Hello, Rachel. Yeah, you can blame Scribby. I watched 11 minutes of it first, but a resident philosopher gave this one to me. So I thought, fuck it, why not? Let's see what this lunatic is saying. Because reasons. It is quite fun to try and debunk this bastard, obviously. 18 people in my YouTube, fucking hell. Thank you, Kevin, Helena. Rejoice, I've been raided. I would say, I demand all of you go and follow Kevin, Helena, but you've already came from there, so yes. Anyone else who is not following those two legends, please do so. Because Kevin, Helena, they're best. And very, so much better than I am, really. at doing this. We are back. Rejoice, comrades. It's the Morton is here. Link in Discord. Thank you, Morton. Yeah. Curtis Yarvin, everyone. He's still mental. And sorry to expose you, Alistair Campbell. Sometimes we do have to deal with this bastard for obvious reasons. I still class him as a war criminal, essentially, but okay, he does crop up every now and again. So the sooner I can actually debunk the pair of them, the better. Full disclosure, Alistair Campbell is a recovered alcoholic, so hopefully he will not see this stream while I'm covering him drinking. I am resigned to the amount I drink. Don't worry, I take breaks. Like tonight, I will be finishing my cider and taking a break for the rest of the week. I do give my body time to recover, obviously. Rejoice, Cameron. I'm trying to figure out the T391 random. Or is it just random? I'm rejoiced. Base Canadian, Echo BC, is here. Hello, my Canadian comrade. Great to see you. Ah! Shall we? My clothes horse collapsed. It worked! It's been a bit weird. It's sometimes it alerts and it sounds off. Hello, hello! I'll take my cardio off actually. Second. Ah, cardio off and hang in there. Look at pretty top. Oh, tunic. Hello. How goes things? The glue. Thank you, Shanna, darling. I will need to tell Raptor that I'm covering Alistair Campbell and Curtis Yarvin. I don't want to see his reaction.
I'm a liberal. I'm a progressive. I believe that democratic politics is the best way by which we make change. I think Churchill got it about right when he said that democracy is the worst form of government apart from all the others. And
Why are you quoting that bastard? Just saying. There's a reason I called Churchill a fucking monster. Mind you, I'm biased. I'm Scottish. I would love that, darling. Don't bust yourself whenever you can get round to it. I was waiting. I'll be giving you and Kathy some stuff. I'm going to the conference on Friday, and I'll be taking footage and things, and taking lots of different photos of stuff around the conference. And I might just post it on the Discord, or I can send it straight to yourself, or does I assume Kathy, I can DM Kathy myself as well, and I can just send us no rush whatsoever, but creating like a banner or something, and maybe some new emotes. Again, no rush. I will figure out ways to fund you for this stuff. Get back to me. I'm thinking about still things for channel. Obviously, I want to make this look better. Obviously, you've got my beautiful face. Sweet. Thank you, darling.
And Curtis Yarvin.
Well,
round of applause. Wait a minute, I haven't introduced you yet. Curtis Yarvin. He disagrees. He is a a computer. What are you, sort of computer nerd?
Absolutely.
Turned political.
Some have spoken of the Nerd Reich.
Okay. Oh. Oh.
But
that's our first point of difference between the UK and the US, isn't it? Anyway, turned political theorist, and I guess if there's one theory with which you're most identified, is this idea that liberal democracy, of which we in Europe are very proud and have not elected anybody who's seeking to dismantle it step by step. You actually think that that has failed and that we should maybe veer more towards the kind of strongman leadership that Donald Trump is now trying to.
Over my dead body. I'm here to counter people like Alistair Curtis. With my dying breath, I will try to denounce these bastards and a suite of other people as well, obviously, including my current government at Westminster, to a certain extent, the people who are actually in Holyrood as well. Yeah, that's why we need to denounce this bastard. I will say again, Scribby, thanks.
Display. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I mean, strongman is a pejorative term. I mean, if you prefer weak men, you've got Herr Starmer,
Ooh.
Not wrong.
So a bit like J.D. Vance going to Munich, you come over here and insult our leaders. But no, what I mean by strongman is a form of leadership.
Of course.
Which is, and you identify
And everyone's
Xi
still here.
Jinping and Modi and Erdogan and Trump. And what it has the tendency towards is actually dictatorship.
So the word dictator is, of course, both an ancient Roman word and a very 20th century word. And
it comes from dictator, those who can speak, essentially. It was basically the rule of the way you can speak in the Senate, essentially. So dictator, he says first. Everyone else still gets to speak. They can say things as well, but this individual man, okay, this man can speak first. That's where it comes from. If need be, I will dig the ditch myself, Rachel. Mark my words. I know exactly where I can get a shovel. If that individual gets inflicted on us, I'm not going to freaking stand for it. Don't get me wrong, people up here in Scotland will vote for Manfrog and his band of merry fucking lunatics. The vast majority of us won't. We don't want that. We despise him. Well, I despise him. I don't know about everyone else. Super Hubby despises him. He thinks he's not a political chameleon, a sly bastard, a slippery one, essentially, a lying two-faced C-word he called him. Yeah, I agree. I hate the man. I don't want him in charge at all. And thanks, Keir Starmer, you're making that more possible. Get right. I would love to see my country get independence. I really would. I keep checking the polls every 2 or 3 months. If that changes, I will let you know. And we couldn't. There is provisions within the Constitution settlement, the Act of Settlement when we first joined 2.5 centuries ago. But the government up here in Scotland are a little bit hesitant to use it. I will not get into it. It's a little, there's a lot of legalese involved, really. But there is a way we can actually just say, fuck you, if you're not going to give us a fucking independence vote, we can do blah and blah and just say, Wirowski until I feel it's the right time to say this. If it is a possible, it's currently not on the table right now. This legal mechanism they can use. But if things change, I will let you know. And I'll tell you about this thing we can actually do. I don't want to give the game away yet. Plus, I need to talk to a couple of legal people that I know if and how it can be implemented. Don't worry, I will tell you. If only the same could be said for the president. Mind you, the diet on that man, and he's looking old now.
And the 20th century was gotta say, a pretty messed up century. And there's a tendency to sort of
No
cherry
shit.
pick examples from that century. And so when we think of forms of government, we naturally think of periods of time closest to us. But actually, any theory of political science has to be, entirely eternal and for the ages. And so, as the German historian Ranke said, every era stands equal before God. So I'd like you to think maybe.
No, it doesn't. I do think historians exist, Curtis. Oh, Andrew, why did you do that to yourself? Do not Google Curtis Yarvin. You'll just be bombarded with questionable stuff. I do them in small doses. Don't get me wrong. I have done a deep dive into this individual, and dear God, I wish I hadn't. That was a couple of years ago, by the way. I would direct you to Leisha Miller. She done one about him and a couple other people a few months back now. It's actually quite a good one, but I've done a deep dive into this thing, this being. I urge people not to do it. Just leave it to people like me. I've got lots of time on my hands. Rejoice, comrades. Parkour's language is here. Hi, Parkour. Look, Horace Yarvin. Sorry to inflict. Shall we continue, Chant?
More in terms of Elizabeth I, Frederick the Great, Alfred the Great. And so was Alfred the Great a strong man? Was Queen Elizabeth I a strong woman?
She was.
At least they called her by the right one. She wasn't our queen, by the way. We still had our crown up here. We still had our monarchy when she was in charge in England.
Was a strong woman.
She was a strong.
Let me.
Are you a fan or not so much?
Not as much as you are, and I'm definitely not as much a fan of Frederick the Great as you are. As somebody who adored Frederick the Great almost as much as you do was Adolf Hitler. Now, what did Adolf Hitler see in Frederick the Great?
Oh, motherfucker. I have no idea. Alistair's getting on a bit. Oh no. Fuck it. Uh, Well, oh, oh, Christ. Oh, no. Ah! Thanks, Shanna. Sorry, folks. Oi, raindrops. Fucking Stamford. That was fun. Sorry about that. It won't align me. Hmm. Okay, I'll do it. I'll check that one. I can't remember where it is. How far ago it was. Mm, alright. Um, there's, uh, nah. I was posting that, wasn't I? Give me a minute. I'll go back up. I couldn't get the rest. I tried to sign up for the free trial, but it wouldn't let me do it through my card. Okay, that might actually work. Uh, oh, there we go. I just need to type in it. It was 4 months ago, so that.
Hi, you're tuned into Why America. My name's Legia Miller. Let's get started. To understand the widespread chaos so far in the Trump administration, you need to know about the names, faces, and ideologies of the people behind the scenes pulling the strings. So today, I'm going to try to untangle the dark web of ideologies driving this administration that go way beyond the top level analysis. It's one thing to look at Doge as a means to save money while handing billionaires some tax cuts, or at Project 2025 as a backlash to progressive ideals, but there is a deeper ideology animating some of the actors that are pulling the strings behind Trump and see him as a convenient CEO figurehead to push through their biggest ideological initiatives. And understanding the underlying theories and beliefs makes everything that's happening much clearer and can help paint a picture for the direction we're headed. Now, before we dive in, let me please preface this by saying that I am in no way insinuating that there's some giant underground cabal of anyone making master plans to take over the United States and then the world. I think there is scheming happening for sure. I mean, Project 2025 was a major undertaking that brought together literally hundreds of people and organizations, but I'm not here to sow giant underground conspiracy theories. I think what's going on is the result of a lot of disparate actors who happened to know each other and to be influenced by the fringe thoughts of a few guys with blogs, and they now have the ear of the president and the power to experiment with those ideas. Okay, first, let's break down the theories and the people we're talking about to get a lay of the land. These people and theories have been reported on variously over the last few years, but I still think it's not well enough known. I learned a lot in diving into the research for this episode, so hopefully you will too. Elon Musk is absolutely tied up in the ideologies underpinning the second Trump administration, and in a bit of a foreshadowing of what we're going to talk about today, I saw this headline from the publication Futurism that says Elon Musk's credibility sinking as he's caught in web of lies. And it's helpful to see in the Ground News browser extension coverage. The idea is wildly take travel the world without well peace world.
Sorry, Leisha.
For 40% off this unlimited access Vantage plan. It comes out to $5 a month for unlimited access to all of the features that I just mentioned. Thanks, Ground News. First theory, dark enlightenment. To be enlightened, but make it dark. It means to be disenchanted with everything. Basically, to trust and believe in nothing, especially when it comes to truth and information, but also philosophy and government. To be red-pilled, to have had the wool of progressive propaganda pulled from your eyes so you're above the masses and able to see the world for what it really is. You're no longer a sheep following the elite, the intellectuals, the mainstream media, and going along with everything that they say. Neo-reactionary, shortened to NRX, is described variably as the same as Dark Enlightenment, part of the same movement, distinct from it. It's a little unclear. In any event, they're related. NRX criticizes traditional Enlightenment thinking about equality and democracy. Instead, equality and democracy are sowing chaos and making government incredibly inefficient. Liberal democracy is a failed experiment, and equality should not be the desired outcome because it doesn't actually make people's lives better, according to this theory. Prosperity, order, and freedom aren't achieved through individual rights, but through a government able to manage the country efficiently without things like pesky little civil liberties getting in the way. Democracy is a played-out experiment that has proven itself to be very weak. Everyone can agree that politics are bad and populism is bad because decisions should actually be made by experts, which is really a class of people worthy of leading. And so really, aristocracy should be the answer. A country run by people who have been groomed to be great leaders and experts, not subject to the whim of the unwashed masses. Americans are simply too afraid of the word dictator and should in fact be more open-minded that maybe they'd like living under a dictatorship. But this isn't your average feudal monarchical system of old. This new form of aristocracy or monarchy or whatever you want to call it should also include running the country like a startup. And so limits to the executive's ability to run the country like a CEO would are actually bad because it means the government doesn't work as well as it could. The reason the government doesn't work well is because of all these intellectuals and bureaucrats who've bought into the progressive bubble getting in the way of someone who really knows what he's doing, who can take over and run the place. I mean, if Apple ran California, it would work better for people because look at all the great products they make. Companies are really just little tiny monarchies if you really think about it, and we're surrounded by amazing stuff made by these amazing little monarchies. I mean, imagine if the government made your laptop. The horror. In fact, the expansion of democracy through things like abolishing slavery and giving everyone the right to vote hasn't really benefited people much. I mean, so many formerly enslaved people suffered when they were set free after the Civil War. The ladies in Jane Austen novels seem like they were having a great time. The government would simply work
Well, they
better
weren't.
for everyone if we had a CEO running things. Neo-reactionary thinking involves cherry-picking history and facts, whitewashing reality, ignoring the fact that most startups fail, and blindly accepting that capitalist progress is the thing that should be valued above all else, all while calling yourself enlightened. And then there's accelerationism, the idea that Western democracy is irreparably corrupt. Participating within the system through things like voting and mass politics is pointless, and the best way to more quickly move away from these corrupt, inefficient governmental models to accelerate their demise is by creating chaos and political tension as much as possible until it all comes crumbling down, at which point the rich, white, smart Christians will come out on top as they are preordained to do. So don't bother voting, but if you do vote, vote for the most extreme candidate, the one that will bring it all down faster. But really, violence is the ultimate answer. Accelerationist ideals are frequently cited by especially white nationalist mass shooters and terrorists as the source of their ideology and the reasoning behind their violence. Neo-reactionism grew out of early accelerationism. As Vox describes the beliefs, quote, egalitarian and democratic policies described as progressive by left liberals are in fact a way of slowing down the only progress worth having, acceleration toward techno-capitalist singularity. Neo-reaction is a version of accelerationism adapted to address this problem. So with each of these intertwined ideologies, dark enlightenment, neo-reactionism, and accelerationism, the underlying through line is anti-democratic, anti-egalitarian, and in favor of technological advancement above all else, wherein the individual matters less than the overall progress towards financial growth spurred on by technological advancement. Voting rights and DEI and wokeism and bureaucrats following rules get in the way of progress when the central idea of progress revolves around how to use computers to make as much money as possible. And so having a single autocratic ruler who is a genius and doesn't have to abide by the sticky, slow norms required by democracy is better for everyone. Because in this world, everyone benefits from this techno progress. If a few individuals, meaning 99% of the population, have to, have zero say in the functioning of their society, experience daily racism or sexism, and live in constant fear of an autocratic government that doesn't allow dissent, and enjoy zero of the riches that their daily labor creates, so be it. It's for the good of mankind. And some of the more important quote-unquote philosophers of these ideologies have largely flown under the radar until recently. Those names include Nick Land, a former professor of philosophy from England who is seen as the originator of the modern right-wing accelerationist philosophy. He was originally associated with the University of Warwick, but when his philosophy started really flying off the
University of Warwick. Sorry, Leisha. We'll continue.
hinges, he and his associated group of faculty members, known as the Cybernetic Culture Research Unit, or CCRU, split from the university in 1998 and moved into, a house formerly owned by a prominent British Satanist, where the group took copious amounts of amphetamines and scribbled diagrams all over the walls. In his own book, Nick Land admits that, quote, after perhaps a year of fanatical abuse of amphetamines, I was, by any reasonable standard, profoundly insane. But yeah, go off, King. After his self-described mental breakdown, Land moved to China, where he worked as a journalist and deeply admired the Chinese regime's accomplishments and leaders. By the 2010s, he had made contact and began working with the purported godfather of dark enlightenment and neo-reactionism, Curtis Yarvin. Yarvin is a 50-something blogger who makes his living mostly from spewing academic-sounding blather on his Substack. He hates elites and intellectuals while also declaring himself an intellectual. He went to Brown University for undergrad, graduating in 1992, and then got a year and a half into a computer science PhD program at Berkeley before dropping out to work for a tech company. He went on to found a computer platform called Urbit in 2002, and getting embedded into the early Silicon Valley libertarian tech community seemed to really radicalize the young Curtis. He began blogging in 2007, pontificating on his dark enlightenment neo-reactionary theories to a fringe audience. In 2013, he expanded the work of his company Urbit through a company he co-founded thanks to venture capital funding from none other than Peter Thiel, with whom he reportedly watched the 2016 election results roll in and whom he has described as fully enlightened. Peter Thiel is also the tech billionaire who helped fund ventures J.D. Vance was involved with before throwing his hat in the political ring. J.D. Vance has cited to Yarvin approvingly on various podcast appearances. Peter Thiel is also closely connected to Elon Musk, with whom he worked on PayPal in the early 2000s. And of course, the Silicon Valley billionaires love Yarvin because his argument is democracy is weak, and that's why there are unpopular policies like mass immigration, for example, that persist despite people not liking them. And then he turns the blame for the ills of society on democracy and says, actually, if we have a few powerful people take over, then everything would be better. As opposed to the reality, which is that incredibly unpopular policies persist because our current democracy is overrun by moneyed interests, and so our elected officials aren't answerable to us, they're answerable to the 1%. And this has been studied. In Yarvin's camp,
Thanks,
the answer
Shanna.
to this corruption isn't to try to move more towards democratic ideals by, I don't know, banning billionaires from government, but instead to do away with democracy altogether. And so Curtis Yarvin, through his learned mannerisms and ability to make the asinine sound profound by calling himself an intellectual, using words like opprobrious, and speaking in a condescending tone, is able to make it seem like the billionaires killing all of us are actually here to save us, and we're all stupid idiots who fell for the progressive lies being fed to us by society. We're in the cult, he's the red-pilled enlightened prophet here to save all of those who will listen. This is a computer nerd who took the idea of playing devil's advocate way too far, and who's also stumbled on the right words to say to get powerful people to listen to him. And in this day and age, if you have someone who understands tech or computers, we then love to impute a greater genius or higher understanding onto them, despite the fact that they haven't earned it. Just because a white guy founded a tech company does not mean he's smarter than the average person. Let me say that again. Just because a white guy founded a tech company does not mean he's smarter than the average person. And this is also why white nationalists love Yarvin and the neo-reactionary philosophy. It gives them a convenient excuse, cloaked in pseudo-intellectualism, for why they shouldn't have to bother themselves with equality, and why actually their racism and misogyny is good, because those democratic values just get in the way of true progress. It makes them feel enlightened, philosophical, above it all, after decades of being made to feel ashamed for being raging bigots. It assures them there is a natural order to things, and they are at the top of that order. And I wanted to talk about this today because I think it's important to understand this underlying philosophy, to call it what it is, to put names and faces to the people pulling the philosophical strings behind the madness, but also because I think it's important to talk about this stuff in light of what is currently a waning democracy, that is the United States. I talked about this last week, but it is very easy, I do it too, to look backwards to try to figure out where we're going. These are all the ways Trump is like Hitler. Here's how Hitler did it. Let's look into that to learn from history so we can try and predict what Trump is going to do next. But 2025 is not the same as 1935. And much like the Industrial Revolution of the 100 years leading up to the 20th century fundamentally changed the order of society, so too has the advent of the internet in the 50 years leading up to this present moment. The accumulation of wealth that the internet has fast-tracked, either directly or indirectly, spurred on by governments that were fumbling to pass regulations quickly enough to keep up and have largely failed, and now the computing power that has been and continues to be created by AI, another computing revolution that governments have no idea how to handle, is entirely new in the history of the world. Technological advancements have shaped the world over and over throughout history, from the printing press to the steam engine, but the internet has accelerated how quickly innovations can change all of us, and AI is the latest advancement that I do not think it's an overstatement to say is a full-on technological revolution with the power to shape our global systems, our societies, our governments, and more. There was the initial wave of discovering that ChatGPT can write your homework for you, which has died down as we've all discovered that it's actually not that good at that. And also, it uses unconscionable amounts of energy to operate. But that was truly just the start, and AI's potential beyond individual user inputs is only just beginning to be unpacked. And AI is very central to this discussion about dark enlightenment and neo-reactionism because it is truly the pinnacle of techno-capitalism and has been floated as a potential tool for future governing, not to be used by future governments, but instead to take the place of governments. ChatGPT's parent company OpenAI was co-founded by Elon Musk and now CEO Sam Altman. Altman has been increasingly friendly with Trump, just this last week appearing at an event with Saudi officials during Trump's Middle East trip. Despite origins that indicated a dedication to transparency and safety in their development of AI, Sam Altman has increasingly pushed OpenAI towards faster and faster product launches, foregoing safety for quote-unquote progress, according to reporting in The Atlantic based off the forthcoming book Empire of AI by Karen Howe, which is absolutely now on my reading list. The article in The Atlantic quotes Bloomberg saying that research into the actual effects of AI, quote, raises an uncomfortable prospect that this supposedly revolutionary technology might never deliver on its promise of broad economic transformation, but instead just concentrate more wealth at the top. Indeed, Sam Altman has touted the benefits of OpenAI's work as moving us ever closer to the promised land, also known as artificial general intelligence, or AGI, meaning autonomous AI that has reached or surpassed levels of human intelligence. Altman claims the arrival of AGI would bring, quote, massive prosperity. But according to the article in The Atlantic, quote, AGI is largely rhetorical, a fantastical, all-purpose excuse for OpenAI to continue pushing for ever more wealth and power. Under the guise of a civilizing mission, the empire of AI is accelerating its global expansion and entrenching its power. So it's no wonder why Sam Altman and OpenAI are associated with Elon Musk, who's associated with Peter Thiel, who's associated with J.D. Vance, who all at various points tout the teachings and philosophy of Curtis Yarvin and other proponents of dark enlightenment, neo-reactionism, and accelerationism. AI offers the ultimate example of potential progress at the expense of individuals who happen to get in the way of that progress. So what if you're a worker in Kenya earning a pitiful wage to become deeply traumatized while filtering out violence and hate speech from OpenAI's technologies? So what if you're an artist or journalist getting phased out by the AI that is using your very art or words to spew out art or articles faster than any human could? So what if you live in a contaminated area or a region regularly devastated by increasing natural disasters because of the climate change being hastened by the further development of AI? All of it is worth it in the end, in the name of progress. And anyway, it doesn't really matter because the ultimate height of human achievement and technological progress is colonizing Mars, where we can escape from the disasters that AI has brought about. And by we, I mean a select few billionaires, but again, it's all in the name of progress, and that's all that matters. And while all of this is very new and spurred on by technologies the world has never seen before, it is also in some ways a tale as old as time. So long as your philosophy posits you as preternaturally ordained for greatness, as a genius among men, you're absolved from contending with the humanity of the people your actions are hurting. You can point to a higher purpose while stamping out the life around you. That is not new. And when you understand,
I will interject just to make sure that I'm actually covering this in some form of reaction, basically. Lisa's correct, by the way. These individuals, Garvin, Teal, Land, they're all, they do have degrees. I am reluctant to use intelligent. Obviously, they are. Intelligence is difficult to measure. Trust me on this one. They're all reactionary. They're all lunatics in my eyes. Don't get me wrong. In some ways, I am a bit of a reactionary. Obviously, I am reacting to this, and to Curtis Yarvin and Alistair Campbell after a fashion. These people need to be talked about, like Lisa's doing, like I'm doing, like Kev or Elaine do sometimes with some of these people, mostly politicians, mostly. We have to deal with them. We have to highlight and show people what they're saying and how mental it is, really. We're not all like this, by the way. Humans, I mean, people in general. Some of us are rather based and very intelligent. Some of us even have degrees. But being able to talk about this is always a good thing, if after fashion, really.
understand this background, the rise of these uniquely 21st century ideologies like Dark Enlightenment, neo-reactionism, accelerationism, and the men like Curtis Yarvin who have garnered fame from developing them, or like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and J.D. Vance who have gained power and fortune from adhering to them, or like Trump, who's definitely too stupid to understand any of this, but delighted to act as a dummy figurehead to wave at the crowds and sign the decrees, you then are better able to understand why the disparate groups of people behind Project 2025 and who are pulling the strings in the White House now are able to pull this all off despite the apparent chaos it's causing, despite their apparent disagreements. They are all in some way united behind a greater purpose wherein their greed, bigotry, and sociopathic inability to feel empathy is all justified, where the world order that puts them, white Christian men and the women who are willing to birth their babies, at the very top is reestablished, and where the pain that their ideologies cause, whether through higher prices because of tariffs, or deporting toddlers, or keeping a legally dead woman on life support to act as a flesh receptacle for her 9-week-old fetus despite her family's wishes, that can all be justified as necessary to their ultimate goal of progress. And I think all of us collectively recognizing this and calling it out for what it is an important first step. It can be easy to fall into cynicism when faced with such a large, deeply entrenched, and very scary ideology, so I'm trying not to do that by, at the very least, just shedding more light on these things. I also think it's an important lesson for those of us who wish to counteract this incredibly cynical force that has taken over our government. You have to know your enemy, but we also have to be driven by something bigger than us, something that is genuinely deeply meaningful, something that will align us across differences of opinion and background in an effort towards that deeply meaningful goal. And I'm not sure what that is, but I refuse to let right-wing cynicism infect my belief that there's got to be something positive we can all get behind for the benefit of each other and humanity generally. If you want to support my work, all my videos are completely ad-free and uncensored over on Patreon, patreon.com/LegiaMiller. Thank you to my multi-platinum patrons, Mark, Sarah Shelby, Art, David, RH, Latranger Lucas, Thomas Johnson, and Tay. Your generosity makes this channel what it is, so thank you. And if you liked this episode, you'll like the one from Wednesday about Hassan Piker's customs detention and what that means for all of us. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Oh, that's there.
This week, the Supreme Court issued a ruling indicating that Donald Trump can use emergency powers under the centuries-old Alien Enemies Act to deport people. His administration has indicated it wants to go even further, including sending American citizens to a high-security prison in El Salvador, notorious for human rights abuses. Well-known scholars of fascism like Timothy Snyder and Jason Stanley have fled the country. White ladies are even getting detained at the airport. And the New York Times is publishing articles like this opinion piece they dropped today with the headline, "We should all be very, very afraid." If you live in America right now and haven't been sucked into the MAGA cult, you likely are feeling a sense of unease, to say the least. Not just because your 401k value is plummeting dramatically in the face of an escalating trade war, but also because it feels like the walls are closing in on more and more people, both our rights and also our physical autonomy and safety. I don't know about you, but my fight or flight response has been active. I alternate between considering full prepper lockdown and fleeing to Europe, the motherland. I know which websites are the best for searching for apartment rentals in most major European cities because my doom scroll of choice is, I wonder how much an apartment in Paris costs just in case, and also, how do you flee across an ocean with a petulant, stubborn English bulldog in tow? And so many more questions. It's exhausting, and on top of it all, the constant onslaught of horrible news makes it very hard to know how much panic is legitimate and what's an overreaction. And when I'm spiraling personally, I find that more information is helpful to get a grasp on what's actually happening, so it's less of a nebulous, unknown, foreboding sense of doom. And in fact, it can be very helpful for me to stop and remind myself of the privileges that I do possess so that I'm not in my own head obsessing about myself and can instead move forward with a clear mind and pay attention to what does matter and what is actually an emergency versus what is just a stress response. So today, in an attempt to offer you the same perspective and a moment of relief for your nervous system, maybe, I'm going to rank who should be fleeing the US, from get the fuck out to you are fine, including the news stories that I'm going to use to support my arguments, because you know I always come with receipts. And this is not to make light of the situation, but instead because we have to laugh to keep from crying. We're having fun here. Let's get into it. Thank you to my partner
No,
on
we're
today's
not.
video, PDS debt. Credit card debt sucks. I know for then see if they have a spare bedroom. You should get the fuck out, meaning you should probably seriously. Okay, categories are get the fuck out, meaning you should probably seriously consider leaving. Get your shit together, meaning you should get your affairs in order. Have your important documents ready. Call your friend in Canada and see if they have a spare bedroom. You know, make a legitimate actionable plan to leave. Next, high alert. Begin to consider the possibility that it might be safer for you in a different country and consider what that might look like for you. Next category, keep your eyes peeled. Your safety is not actively under threat. There are not credible reports that you are being targeted for jail or deportation, but you're certainly vulnerable to perhaps a watch list. And as things escalate, you may want to consider leaving if credible reports start surfacing. And then there's the you are fine. The regime wants you here. Even if you don't openly support them, keep calm and carry on fighting the good fight. Now, obviously, a few huge caveats, because I can picture the comments already. Obviously, this stupid chart I'm making isn't going to take into account every single potential identity of all 330 million people here. Everyone's situation is incredibly nuanced, and boiling people down to a single identifier is naive and paints a very incomplete picture. But the regime is boiling us all down to a few key identifiers, so I'm using their criteria to determine who should or should not be worried. Additionally, you may have several personal identifiers that appear on this chart in different alert categories, and this will hopefully help you to suss out the nuances if there are some mitigating factors for or against leaving. And finally, yes, this is stupid. We live in the stupidest possible timeline. It is infuriating. It is so fucking stupid. This is all stupid. I'm meeting the moment with the stupidity it deserves. But this is what I've been thinking about for weeks, and I can't stop thinking about it.
Rejoice, comrades! Sixth Monarch is now following. Hi, Monarch. Welcome, welcome. I'll do my standard introduction. I know you, don't worry. Hello, welcome. I am Madkat79 Scotty, a Scottish disabled Marxist streamer. I talk about health and disability issues, politics and history. Welcome, welcome. Hi, good to see you. Welcome in. I be but one lowly woman who's trying her best. Welcome. Carry on, Leisha.
And creating this little graph has helped actually figure out what's worth taking action on and what's just my brain spiraling in unhelpful and anxiety driven ways. So this is stupid, but I'm doing it because I also think it's helpful. And then of course there's the major question of okay, I'm high up on this list, I want to leave, but how? And I'll get into that at the end because that is also a thing I've been spiraling about, so I've done a lot of research. Great, with those ground rules in place, let's do this. We're gonna start with the highest tier first. Coming in at the top, the get the fuck out category, we have undocumented folks, and whether or not you're here legally, immigrants from countries where people are mostly brown and or mostly not Christian, the quote-unquote global south, if you will. If you are here in the US and you don't have proper documentation to show that you're allowed to be here, there is an active and proven threat against you. Whether or not you're a contributing member of society, whether or not you've ever committed a crime, whether or not you have any credible gang affiliation, honestly, no matter what country you're from originally. My sources, frankly, too many to name, but the Supreme Court decision this week in the case involving Venezuelan migrants who were spirited away to an El Salvador prison without proof or due process shed some light on that threat. Trump relied on his alleged powers under the Alien Enemies Act to deport the immigrants in question, saying that this was an emergency, there's an invasion at the border, cartels and Mexican gangs are terrorist organizations, these people are terrorists, and by the power vested in me by this emergency situation, I'm going to deport them without any notice or a chance to be heard by a judge. And the lower court blocked that, meaning the judge said, no, there's a chance you actually don't have that authority, turn those planes around. And they didn't turn the planes around, but the government also then appealed that judge's decision, and the Supreme Court weighed in and said, no, actually, lower court judge, you are wrong. Trump does have this authority. Because remember what I always say, the Supreme Court has a long history of giving incredible leeway when national security and emergency powers are invoked. Most famously in their Korematsu decision, where they decided that concentration camps filled with Japanese Americans on U.S. soil were A-OK. In fact, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson mentioned Korematsu by name in her dissent, saying the court was wrong then, just as it is wrong now. That being said, the Supreme Court did confirm that these detainees do in fact deserve due process, to be notified of their pending deportation and to have an opportunity to be heard in court before they are deported. That's little comfort to the people already sent to that prison in El Salvador. The government is arguing that the US now has zero jurisdiction to do anything to right those wrongs, but it means anyone currently being detained should, at least in theory, be given due process rights. So the Supreme Court confirmed what should be obvious, but unfortunately bears stating plainly.
Is there due process in America, my lovely comrades? You'll not shock me when you say no. I thought due process was one of your founding principles. Who'd have thunk it?
Due process does still exist, at least in theory. However, immigration court is not criminal court, and you are not guaranteed a lawyer. And the Supreme Court said that the way a person should contest their detention is through a habeas corpus petition. This petition is filed in court against the entity holding you against your will, and it's meant to prove that your rights are being violated by your detention. You can file a habeas petition on your own behalf, but you're going to be a hell of a lot more successful if you have a lawyer to file it for you and represent you in your hearings. There are many lawyers who do this work pro bono. Remember how I mentioned in an episode a few weeks ago that big law attorneys do a lot of pro bono work? A lot of them do work assisting with habeas petitions because they tend to be isolated cases.
Rejoice, comrades. Story Girl is here. Hi, Gemma. I'm doing quite well. Scotland won the football. I'm doing well, thank you. I'm currently sitting, relaxing, drinking cider. I was trying to watch Alistair Campbell and yikes, Curtis Yarvin. If you want me to get exposed to more Curtis Yarvin, just post it in the Discord. I'll get round to it. And by the way, what's your opinion on Yarvin? I'd love to know.
That are more manageable to handle alongside your other law firm work. But guess what all the major law firms are doing? They're bending to Trump's will and promising they'll only do pro bono work that Trump approves of. And you can bet your bonnet he's not going to approve of them continuing to help immigrants by representing them in court. So even though the Supreme Court confirmed your right to a hearing, the availability of lawyers that can do low cost or free work for immigrants, which wasn't plentiful to begin with, is dwindling. And if you are an immigrant here from a not predominantly white country, even if you are documented, are here legally, have been a contributing member of society for decades, have never committed any crime, have never pulled from the welfare system, have always paid your taxes on time, have been the perfect little immigrant, I'm putting you at the top of this list still because there are credible instances of US citizens and valid green card holders being deported, including to El Salvador, without due process, without having done anything wrong. ICE will make something up or fudge the truth, and it can be hard to prove your legal residency here because they don't care. Your safety is actively under threat, and if I were you, I'd be making plans to get the fuck out. Again, this is not meant to be alarmist. I am trying to genuinely assess the risks here based on the hours and
Thank you. Trout with Clout. Much appreciated. Hello, Ray Joyce comrades. Trout with Clout is here. You're named after one of my favourite fish. Thank you. I've done Yarvin before in my stream last year. Fucking what we were in October, 15 or 16 months ago when I first got my channel started. Essentially, I covered him back then, and I thought, yeah, about time for me to get back to the bastard. I haven't covered Nick Land. If you can find anything of this individual, please say so. She would be so much better, Gemma, wouldn't she? She's getting there, trust me. I've watched a couple of her more recent ones and she's so damn close. I left her community for financial reasons. I might actually pick up my Patreon again and rejoin our YouTube in the new year. Maybe after my birthday. My birthday's in March, so maybe around Aprilish. I might start going back onto our Patreon and stuff. She has shifted a lot. I loved this video because it explains it quite well. It's quite good of her to do this. Welcome, Trout with Kite. Always a pleasure. Yeah, I've covered him before. I've 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 seen him before and read about him over the years. Essentially, the man is a fucking lunatic. Essentially, not quite fat. He's more libertarian, really. He's one of those Peter Thiel people. Mind you, in saying that, I think Peter Thiel probably learned from him. So he's in that sort of frame of mind. He's more libertarian than fascist, really. Don't get me wrong. The libertarians are fucking lunatics as well. Peter Thiel, get to fuck. Oh God, yeah, he is. The sooner he can fuck off, the better. But with the amount of money and reach and with the amount of exposure and reach and wealth that he's got, it's problematic to say the least. Don't worry, there's plenty of people out there who are trying to counter Peter Thiel and his ilk. I'm not entirely sure I'm built for it mentally to actually cover Thiel. Um, JT from Second Thought and Deprogram has covered him a couple of times. JT's turned into a bit of a tank, unfortunately. Sorry, JT. But he's covered Teal before. I try not, I dip my toes in every so often with Teal. These people have to be highlighted so we can watch out for them. Safety in numbers and all that. The more of us actually watching these kind of lunatics, the better, in my eyes, really. I am not pressuring anyone, trust me. If you want to research Peter Thiel or look him up, feel free, or you can leave it up to me. I've got nothing else to do. I've got lots of time on my hands. I've got other stuff to do, but I've got lots of time on my hands. And I can do research.
Hours I spend every week combing through the news. There are too many stories of lawful residents being detained and some being deported, and even just detention without deportation can be incredibly traumatizing. The threat is very real. You are not overreacting if you are making plans to leave post haste. Okay, next criteria on the list we have get your shit together. This means do you have your passport and other documentation together and ready to go? Do you have a plan for if you need to leave quickly? I would be reaching out to friends in other countries if you have any. I would be choosing which country I would go to and the best route to long-term residency in that country, just in case. On this list, I have put anyone
Some
who's
people can't
brown and
afford
looks
that.
like they could come from Latin America or a Middle Eastern country, or whose name sounds like it could be from those regions, or whose parents are from those regions, even if you were born in the US. My sources, stories are emerging of more and more people being detained at airports, including a lawyer, including US citizens who were born here but maybe have dual nationality with a country from those regions, or whose parents are from those regions, especially if you travel to those regions regularly, they have that information.
I just got escorted off of a flight as an American in LAX.
You are at risk of being detained, and given how quickly they're deporting people to avoid
Yeah, I
due
know.
process or being stopped.
It's quite good. She's updated it since. This is the first one. I like to show this one. It is actually quite a good categorization she's done. Don't get me wrong. I say to my American friends, I can help you if you want to escape. I can help you navigate the British legal system and get over here. The immigration system is a bit questionable, is a bit of a reach at this point. But I can help people to show categorization of what grouping and how I can help you come over, especially if you're trans or Muslim or disabled. Oh God, disabled people like myself. It's a bit of a worry. I disabled people in the US. I'm sorry. Oh, it will be increasingly hard for you to get in because my government sucks, and our immigration laws also suck.
If you are detained, you are at risk of deportation without due process. I would be making an exit plan. If you are an immigrant from Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the white people places, you are in the get your shit together category. Numerous reports are surfacing of German tourists being detained and deported. A Welsh girl was backpacking through North America and was detained and ultimately deported because they said she was illegally working on her tourist visa. She was trading work for a place to stay, which is a very common practice called woofing, where you work on someone's farm or wherever and they provide room and board for you. The BBC article about her return home reads the same as when you hear about Americans being detained in Russia or somewhere and then returned home. It says, quote, "A backpacker detained in the US is back home in Wales after an emotional airport reunion," her father has confirmed. Becky Burke, 28, had been held in the US Immigration and
That's why I want immigration controls up here for Scotland. We'd be 1,000 times more welcoming. Trust me on that. We are very welcoming, jovial country here. We want to help people. I want to help people. I have helped people escape America. They're back home now. Admittedly, one was born and brought up here and done her studies here, then they fell in love with an American and moved over to the States. And I managed to help them get out. I actually found them their house. And my lovely friend, without actually saying to her parents put the deposit down on the house for them. Thank you. I got my friend back. Haha. Fantastic. So my friend's a nurse. She worked in like a A&E, accident emergency or a casualty over in New York. And her husband's a social worker. He done his studies here in Glasgow, at Glasgow Uni, oddly enough, social welfare and child psychology. They're over here now with their two beautiful daughters. Fantastic. I speak to them regularly. Being able to extricate people from the States, love it. Want to do more of it. Obviously, for certain types of people, difficult.
Customs Enforcement Processing Center for 19 days after being denied entry at the US-Canada border. Her father, Paul Burke, told BBC Wales the nightmare is over after his daughter was reunited with family and friends at Heathrow Airport earlier. Mr. Burke said, "It will take some time for Becky to recover from this traumatic experience." A Canadian woman was detained at the southern border of the United States despite a valid work visa because there was record that a past visa application had been denied. She had gone through the correct channels to fix that visa issue and was simply trying to renew her legitimate visa when she was detained and questioned and ultimately told that the processing on her visa was incorrect. And it's still unclear why she was then held in a detention center for 2 weeks before being allowed to return to Canada. These are very real threats. Being detained in a US immigration center is no fucking joke. If I were you, I'd be getting my shit together. And then finally on the get your shit together list is trans folks. And this one I was a little on the fence about because frankly, I think y'all have been in the get your shit together category since before Trump took office, but I also recognize that there are few countries where it's easy to live openly and happily as a trans person.
Yes, I use the pejorative, sorry. Yeah, I like to think that I can speak for the majority of Scottish people. If I don't, I'm open to be corrected by other Scots. As far as I'm aware from other Scots that I speak to online and my friends and family, the area IRL, I am mostly good in what I say, mostly accurate. We're not all Marxists, obviously, not all communists, leftists of different flavours, essentially. Mostly suck them. Don't get me wrong, there are still Marxists and anarchists here in Scotland. A few anarchists here in Glasgow, I've recently found out. Thank you, brother-in-law. That's Super Happy's younger brother. Apparently there's an anarchist postie. Love it. And apparently he's going to the Green Party conference, so I'll be meeting up with him for a pint.
Additionally, I'm not seeing reports that there is new active danger of deportation or incarceration being currently enacted by this regime against trans folks. Anti-trans laws are being introduced, and there is a lot of anti-trans rhetoric, but that was happening before Trump took office in January. That being said, the election of Donald Trump further legitimizes hate and violence towards trans people. You are not unreasonable if you are making plans to leave and getting your shit together, or at the very least, getting to a bluer state. Next category is high alert. This means you are part of a historically marginalized group. There are signs this administration actively wants to remove your rights, though there are not reports to show that your bodily safety is currently under new and increased threat in the same way that those in the higher categories are. I'd be considering your options if I were you. I'd be doing a little research. I'd be seeing if I have ancestry somewhere that would allow me to get citizenship. I'd be thinking about applying for jobs internationally if I can. This category includes Black people. Now, if you're Black and a recent immigrant or child of immigrants, those higher categories also apply to you. But if you're Black and not a recent immigrant, descendants of formerly enslaved people, for example, there's not new evidence of increased active targeting of Black Americans, like their physical safety. But the threat to you is higher simply because racism and hatred is being legitimized through Trump's presidency, and because dismantling DEI programs and calling every Black person a DEI hire is going to hinder your opportunities in this country. Plus, the other threats to your physical safety and to incarceration that come with just being Black in this country, which is not new to this regime. Racism is a problem everywhere, but your opportunities may be less hindered elsewhere, where education is more accessible and less expensive, where there's established practices of at least trying to avoid bias in hiring processes, etc. The US is not creating an environment for you to thrive, so it is not unreasonable for you to seriously consider your options for going elsewhere. Also on high alert, disabled people, whether physically or mentally or in ways that are not immediately visible. You are already marginalized. The Trump regime and Project 2025 had made it clear they don't give a shit about you. There is a real threat that your protections and rights may go away. That being said, again, you are not under immediate and increased bodily threat to the same level as these higher categories, but you are not unreasonable for considering other countries where protections are less at risk. Also on high alert, Muslims. You are historically marginalized. Existing in a Christian nationalist state is not going to contribute to your thriving and will legitimize increased hatred and violence toward Muslims. You may be a target because of your faith. You are not unreasonable for considering whether other countries would allow you to more openly practice your faith without fear of retribution. And also on high alert, the LGBTQ community generally. There is active threat against the protection for same-sex marriage that could significantly impact everything from how you pay your taxes, to your rights over your children, to your protection from work discrimination, and more. Your bodily safety is not being targeted at the moment by actors within this regime, but your rights certainly are. You're not unreasonable for considering other countries where your marriage and your family and your life is respected and protected, or at the very least, bluer states that provide greater protections. Next category down on the list is keep your eyes peeled. These are people at heightened risk of being targeted for various reasons, but who aren't actively at risk for their physical safety. You would advance to a higher risk category when news reports surface that people like you are being targeted for arrest or violence increases against you. You should keep an eye out for those reports and be ready to start thinking about leaving if that risk increases. On this list, we have Jewish people. In a Christian nationalist state, Jews are used as pawns to claim anti-Semitism when reporting protesters, for example, but the reality is you are still an other. You come from a long history of marginalization. It is not unreasonable for you to be on alert for potential threats. Also, keep your eyes peeled to academics. You're not being targeted for bodily harm yet, but your universities are under attack. Your employment opportunities are dwindling. Respect for your work is decreasing. You are not unreasonable for considering whether there are other countries that would value your work more or would allow for your full and complete intellectual freedom and debate. Lawyers, you also need to keep your eyes peeled. Recently, an attorney representing pro-Palestinian protesters was detained at an airport in Michigan. He falls into other higher risk categories on this chart, but it's not unreasonable to wonder whether his work played a role in his detention. Your places of employment are actively being targeted. Whether you work at a large law firm, at a nonprofit that relies on government funds, or for the government itself and you're not willing to fall in line, it is not unreasonable for you to consider whether your ability to freely practice your profession might be easier elsewhere. Journalists and news commentators, ditto to you. Trump and his cronies have made it very clear that they are hostile to journalists who don't fall in line. Your places of employment are being actively targeted for law lawsuits. Trump is very willing to name and shame journalists on social media and elsewhere, which has led to credible threats against journalists' lives if you fall into Trump's crosshairs. There are no signs that journalists are being actively targeted by the regime such that their bodily safety is actively at risk, but it is not unreasonable to be keeping your eyes peeled for the first sign of more active crackdowns against journalists. Known communists, you're on the keep your eyes peeled list as well. You know that despite the fact that MAGA people don't actually know what the definition of communism is, this country is not above actively targeting people on communist membership lists. That historic marginalization, combined with this regime's open hostility against communists, means that while you're not actively being targeted and your physical safety isn't currently at risk, it's not unreasonable for you to be on alert and considering whether you might be able to openly express your political views somewhere else. And then women are on the keep your eyes peeled list as well. Threats against our autonomy are not new to this regime. We've already seen our rights eroded through the end of Roe v. Wade, but this new regime is giving Iliad. It's giving Handmaid's Tale. There are active threats to our rights in the form of proposed changes to marriage laws that would get rid of no-fault divorces, as well as the SAVE Act, which Congress could vote on this week, which changes the voting rules and would require people to show proof of citizenship in order to vote. Showing proof of citizenship requires either a birth certificate or a passport, and many married women change their last name, so the name on their birth certificate doesn't match their legal name. For women who don't have a passport or ready access to their social security card, a notoriously fragile and tiny piece of basically tissue paper that you're expected to keep safe and keep track of for your entire life, that creates a number of new barriers to voting. Not to mention the open disdain for women generally shown by this regime. Their supreme leader has literally been found liable for sexual assault repeatedly. It's not unreasonable for you to consider whether existing as a woman might feel safer in another country and to be on alert for any changes that might make you feel more at risk. Okay, and finally we get to the you are fine category. You're wanted. You're safe. Donnie loves you. You are the preferred category of person, the purest of the pure, that the white Christian nationalists want populating our great nation. If you're white, if you're a MAGA believer, if you bleed red, white, and blue, brother, if you're a practicing Christian, congratulations, you got nothing to worry about. Now, how to use this chart, because again, this is not meant to alarm you. It is meant as a tool to evaluate the actual risk you face with a clearer frame of reference. I'll use myself as an example because I find myself often spiraling when I read about infringements on the due process rights of immigrants, of people being detained by ICE off the street. It can make it feel like I am personally actively under threat right now at all times. So I'm a white, cisgender, bisexual woman who is a lawyer and a news commentator with 5 years of online evidence of my open disdain for the regime. The only one of those identities that puts me in the high alert category is that I'm a member of the LGBTQ community. That being said, I'm married to a cis white man, so I move through the world undetected. Secret bisexual. I don't consider myself to be in the high alert category because loss of rights won't really affect me. So that means that despite all my panic and fight or flight responses, I'm at the bottom rungs of this alert graph, with the strong mitigating factor that I'm white. But there are a number of things that are strikes against me, namely being a woman who's a lawyer and not a journalist but a public-facing news commentator, which often gets conflated with journalism and is probably just as bad in the eyes of this regime. And I'm not a communist, but I've certainly frequently and with much fervor expressed very public dissent of this regime, of which there's excessive public record. So I'm keeping my eyes peeled, okay? First sign of journalists being whisked away to El Salvador in the night, or people having their citizenship revoked because they're lawyers, I'm elevating myself to get the fuck out and I'm leaving, okay? And since that is not the case at this point, taking a deep breath, I'm calming the fuck down. I'm staying put. I'm learning to be more self-sufficient. I'm fighting the good fight in whatever way I can. But this is, of course, little solace to those of you at the top of this list. And there's not much I can say to you at this point because I'm not trying to make you feel better. I think that that's condescending in the face of very real threat. There is very little that you can do to stop what's happening at this point. If you have a country you can go back to, do that. But I know that's not always an option. If you are a national of a country in Latin America, Andorra, the Philippines, Equatorial Guinea, Portugal, you can get citizenship in Spain after 2 years of residency. To gain residency in Spain for 2 years, you need a valid residency visa, which comes in a number of forms. Student visas, business visas to open a business in Spain, or the digital nomad visa where you can work remotely in Spain. For those who aren't nationals of the countries I listed, you can gain permanent residency in Spain if you are there as a legal temporary resident for 5 years, which is similar for a lot of European countries. The digital nomad visa in Spain is good for 3 years and then renewable for 2 more. That equals 5. A lot of educational programs can also take 5 years, especially if they are PhD programs. If you gain employment at a company in Spain or any other country, frankly, that will sponsor you, that's another option. Citizenship by descent is also possible in a number of countries around the world, including in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. I'm most familiar with citizenship by descent in Europe because, look at me, but I know that non-European countries offer it as well. Within Europe, Spain, Italy, Poland, Luxembourg all come to mind as countries that offer citizenship by descent under varying circumstances. If you're white and live in the upper Midwest, the likelihood that you have Luxembourgish ancestry is pretty high. Both of my grandparents had grandparents straight out of Luxembourg. Because of that, I actually obtained Luxembourgish citizenship last year. Like, I'm telling you, this is actually possible. People talk about leaving the US like it's a pipe dream, and it's certainly hard and not for the faint of heart and requires some money and investment of time for sure, but it's not impossible. The Netherlands has a great business visa where if you open a business there, and it could just be transferring your existing LLC to the Netherlands, you can obtain a visa to live there. If you have a highly sought after profession, especially in tech, you can likely get in as a highly skilled immigrant. Most countries have that as an option and usually provide lists of professions that fall into that category. If I had no other or easier means of immigrating somewhere and an interest in a job change, I would look into applying to a European university to get a student visa where I would study whatever highly sought after job exists in that country and then would apply for a job after finishing my studies. There are numerous universities in Germany, Norway, Italy, and elsewhere that are low cost even for international students. They offer student housing at reduced rates. Some of their programs are in English, and your healthcare would be free as well because the government would provide it to you. Plus, you'll be in Europe, so you can also remove expenses for car payments, gas, and car insurance from your budget. For example, Nantes University, sorry I don't speak French, in France has programs in English, has an enrollment fee of 175 euros, offers student housing for 600 euros per month, and you can get a monthly transit pass for about 60 euros per month, and health insurance is free. There are numerous other universities throughout Europe and probably elsewhere that make the option of going back to school incredibly affordable. And many visas have family reunification options if you have children. You can also teach English as a second language or be an au pair. This information is all available to you on google.com. Now, of course, every situation is different and nuanced. Your decision to stay or leave will be influenced by so many factors. Adding a family and children and pets to this equation makes everything so much more complicated. As a side note, if you have a dog, check out the Chartered Animal Travel Facebook group. Also, Bark Air offers flights for dogs, and they're expensive for now, but they're working on expanding offerings and lowering costs. Or you can sail from New York to Europe aboard the Queen Mary 2 with your dog on board, if you don't want to fly with your dog in stowage under the plane, which is incredibly unsafe for flat-faced dogs and cats. And I can already see the Europeans in my comments. There are going to be a lot of people from other countries telling you they don't want you to come there. The reality is that anti-immigrant sentiment is not unique to America. Every European will tell you their city is experiencing an unprecedented housing crisis. That's true everywhere in Europe and the US and elsewhere around the world. As a white person, I'd rather take up space in the land where my people came from than gentrify a neighborhood in Mexico City, for example. It's hard to stay in the US under the current regime. It is also incredibly hard to leave because everywhere is experiencing instability right now. And being an immigrant, no matter how white you are, is an incredibly difficult experience, made all the more difficult if you have additional intersecting identities. I have looked at and considered all possible factors over and over again, and even with citizenship in Luxembourg and therefore the right to live anywhere in the EU, I'm still staying put for now because I still exist with a lot of privilege. I'm not being actively targeted and put in danger. I feel at home in my city in a way that I will not feel anywhere else in the world, and my family and my oldest friends are here. Your considerations are going to be different, but I hope that this discussion today has helped you maybe exit full-blown panic mode and actually analyze the situation so you can make educated decisions about how to respond in the face of an increasingly violent autocratic regime. Leaving is difficult, but it is an option. People do it every day. Staying is also an option, especially for those of us who, contrary to that article from the New York Times saying we should all be very, very afraid, have relatively less to fear and would be more helpful if we weren't in a constant state of fight or flight when rational decision-making becomes impossible. Take a deep breath. We are in this together, and for some people, it is not selfish or reactionary or an overreaction to decide to leave. But also, this list is really subjective, and I genuinely want to get a read on how people are feeling. Do you disagree with my assessments? Are you actively making plans to leave? Comment down below. And if you'd like to support my work, I recommend joining me over on Patreon, where I launched the Why America Co-Learning Lab at the beginning of this year, a learning community having discussions and making connections along with a monthly syllabus curated by me. All year, we'll be covering topics under the umbrella theme of Eat the Rich, building solidarity in the new Gilded Age. April's topic is all about uncovering how fascism fascism festered in America. This is all hosted over on Patreon, which is linked down below. If you're interested, please join us, patreon.com/LegiaMiller. Thank you to my multi-platinum patrons, Mark, Thomas Orff, Sarah Shelby, Art, David, RH, Latranger Lucas, Joshua Cole, Thomas Johnson, and Tay. Your generosity makes this channel what it is, so thank you. And if you like this episode, you'll like the one from Monday about this stupid tariff situation. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye!
Oh. Ow. Oh, legs are killing me. Fucking hell. Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit knackered. Uh, shall we? Thank you again, everyone. I really do need to get to my bed. Cheers. Not bad. Not bad at all. Let's see who we can raid. Natalk? Thank you, Natalk. Are you away to your bed, Dog Authority? Thank you for being here. Rejoice, you hold Dog Authority. Like me, is away. I do apologise. Would you like me to reach you out somewhere? I'm sure there's someone going that I can reach you out to. I've been doing my ankles while I've been lying here. Oh, God, that doesn't feel good. Shoulder. I will say again, brass suck. But unfortunately, due to the size of the boobage, I wear them. Ow! God, that. Let's see who I can reach us out to. Let us see. Right. Amy. Okay. Yeah. Ripple. Burble Studios. This one. Oh! Raptor's still going. Let's go and say hi to Raptor. Start raid. Sorry, YouTube comrades. Thanks for the raid, Gemma. Much appreciated. Raptor, where be you? Where be Raptor? Give me Raptor. I can't hear me. Ah, there we go.
Get off
Stay
my dick,
hydrated. Blood mix
Daredevil!
contains alcohol. Self-care is care. Take your meds. Stay based.
Ooh, boy, this is bad.
Free Palestine.
My ult is up whenever yours is.
I still need like 78%. Like, I need more.
Alright, I'm ulting.
Get the fuck away from me, goddamn.
Get him! Get him!
Nothing. Oh, Strange is almost dead.
Got the Strange?
Dude,
Scarlet? Oh,
my...
they're gonna get me, yep.
Got the rocket.